let's talk about immigration. You probably hear this word in the news a lot, and it's a topic that people all over the world have really strong feelings about. And why is that? Well, because it's about so many important things, like our economy, our culture, and just how we live together in our communities. So, what's at the center of this big conversation? Well, you have two main feelings. On one side, some people want to give a warm welcome. They see a future that's better and more interesting with new people. But on the other side, some people are very worried. They're afraid of changes that they can't control. So let's look at why people feel these two very different ways.
Okay, first, let's explore why some people are happy to welcome immigrants. They believe that newcomers are not a problem. In fact, they think immigrants are really important for helping a country grow and become more exciting.
Really, this idea is a very positive one. It sees immigration like a team project. Every new person who arrives brings something special and valuable, and all these special things come together to make the country a better and stronger place for everyone.
So, what are some of these good things? Well, people who support immigration say that newcomers often do really important jobs that are needed, like doctors or people who are good with computers. They also help the economy because they buy things, and many of them start new businesses, which then creates more jobs. And it's not just about money. They also share new foods, new traditions, and new ideas that make society more interesting and open to different ways of life.
And this one is really about feelings. It changes the conversation from being just about money and rules to being about, being kind. It asks a moral question. Shouldn't we help people who are just looking for a safe place to live and a chance for a better future?
But of course, that's only one side of the story. To really understand this topic, we have to look at the other side too. We need to understand the very real worries that make some local people feel nervous about immigration. These are not silly fears. They are real concerns about the future.
Now, this is important to understand. For many people, this worry isn't about disliking foreigners. It's more about wanting things to feel stable and safe. They worry that the community they know and love might change in ways they just can't predict.
So, what are the specific worries? Often, they are about jobs and culture. People ask, will there be enough jobs for everyone if more people come? They also worry about public services. Will our schools and hospitals get too crowded? And under all of that, there's a fear about their way of life, a worry that their local culture and traditions could get lost.
This question points to a very big and practical concern. It's really a question about numbers. People wonder, do we have enough resources for everyone? Simple things like, are there enough desks in the schools, enough beds in the hospitals, and enough jobs for everyone who lives here? So here, we can see the two viewpoints right next to each other. One side sees great things, like new skills, new ideas, and a growing economy. The other side worries about losing their culture and feels there will be too much pressure on jobs and social systems. It's pretty amazing how two groups of people can look at the very same situation and see completely different things. When you see two views that are so different, it's easy to think they will never agree. But what if the biggest problem isn't immigration itself? What if the real issue is that the two sides just aren't talking to each other? And this leads us to a really important idea. Maybe the problem isn't that these groups want totally different things. Maybe the problem is just that they don't connect with each other. The big divide we see might come from something simple, a lack of good conversation and a real effort to understand each other.
And here's the key point. This is so important. Even with their different hopes and fears, both groups actually want the very same thing at the end of the day. They both want a society that is safe, that is doing well economically, and that is a good place to live for their families.
So, if a lack of communication is the problem, then finding a way to connect must be the solution. But how do we even start to do that? Let's take a look at the very first step.
It sounds so simple, doesn't it? But it's actually very powerful. Before people can work together to find solutions, they first have to try to understand each other's feelings and reasons. You don't have to agree with the other side, but you do need to try to understand where they are coming from.
And that leaves us with this final important question. Maybe the best way forward isn't about winning an argument. Maybe it's just about listening more carefully. If both sides could really hear the hopes and fears behind the words, they might discover that they have more in common than they think. Perhaps that simple act of listening is the most important first step of all.